Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, this is Brian Foster on Kardec Radio, presenting the program Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. And this is my first program, and thank you for listening to the program. I really appreciate it. And I want to talk about kind of what this program will be and the format of it. So, what we're going to do is every week on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, I'll select a topic. I will talk about 10, 15 minutes on that topic, and then we'll open the show for people calling in. And I would like you to call in and ask any questions, even if it's not on the topic I talked about. If you have an important question, I'll be happy to listen to it and try to answer as well as I can. So just to tell you what we're talking about tonight, it's about how I became a spiritist. It's how my wife's NDE, her near-death experience, made me a spiritist. She had an NDE and other paranormal events in her life that set the stage for my conversion to Spiritism. Her NDE caused her to foretell events that had a profound effect on my previous belief that we had a complete free will and control of our lives. This is the story of how I thought I lived a life of free will and discovered I was deposited on Earth with a plan to navigate. Kind of give you a background of what I am, what am I about, how I became a spiritist. So I was not a spiritual person. There's many people who are very, from a very young age, they're very spiritual, they're very in tune with the other world, and I was not one of those. I had a vague notion of a higher power, but one that really didn't care about us individually. After all, how could any power keep track of each and every one of us and determine what we had done in our lives? I had hopes of a life after death in heaven, but in reality I expected that when we die, that is it. To me, the Bible is rather boring and ill-written. I read and emulated the ancient Greeks and Romans more than our Western civilization Christian traditions. I read Plato, Livy, Cicero, and other ancient philosophers and writers. I believe that one should be honorable and truthful, even though I frequently failed at being so. When my wife was 17 years old, and this is way before I ever met her, I didn't meet her till she was 31, she had an accident which caused her to lose a great deal of blood. And she was taken to a hospital in Rio de Janeiro. She was delivered straight to the emergency room. The doctor saw her and said, "Quickly, we have to operate." And the nurse said, "Doctor, we don't have any anesthesia today," which is typical of the hospitals of that time in Brazil. They're always running out of important supplies. So the doctor replied, "Well, we have to do without." And Anna said to herself, "God, I'm ready to be taken." Next, Anna noticed a lady, maybe a nurse. She was all in white, but the white seemed to radiate. She held her hand and told her that everything would be all right. Anna's recollection was that surgery took just a moment. She heard the doctor say she would be discharged the next day. Anna didn't feel any pain. She didn't see the lady who held her hand. The next day, her sisters told her the doctor thought she was on drugs. He was amazed she didn't cry out in pain. When Anna arrived in her room, she saw another woman sitting down in the corner of the room, watching her. Then the hospital room wall became transparent, and she saw her life going by like a movie. Anna didn't know at this time, but she had fallen into a coma. As the movie played on, the lady in the corner communicated with her by speaking directly to Anna's mind. Eventually, Anna figured out that the movie was a movie of her life, not only from the past, but it extended to her entire future until her death. She saw her future marriage, building her house, seen from a different hospital room in the future, the success of her children, everything. At the end, the lady told her, "Bye, I'm going back to my home now." And Anna asked, "Can I go with you?" And she replied, "Not now." Over time, the full memories of her trauma receded, but certain events would trigger flashbacks and bring to life particular scenes from her life's movie. So now let me talk about myself. So let me be clear up front. My mother tried her best. My mother took me, my sister, and my father to church every Sunday. Of course, my sister seemed to like to dress up and wear her white gloves to church. My father went mainly because he liked playing on the church's baseball team, although he would complain that our reverend didn't have the commitment to win, since he always tried to find playing time for everyone, not just the best, of whom was my dad. After the service, young ones were taken to a Bible nursery school. I remember a group of us. This is when I was around 5 or 6 years old. We sat in a semicircle with the teacher and several of the mothers in front, mine included. We read from a book which had pictures of animals and a transparent picture of Jesus transposed over the illustrated bodies. The point of each page was to reinforce the idea that Jesus was inside all of us. At the end of each page, we would all say, This is Jesus inside of the animal. Which was quite simple for me to do, since they had a picture of Jesus right over and partially inside each animal. Then we got to the last page, and on the last page was one of those cheap mirrors that badly reflected our image. As I was the last person in the semicircle, I had plenty of time to figure this one out. Suddenly, the first child yelled out, This is Jesus inside of me. All the mothers looked pleased at the successful teaching of this principle. One after another, the children would say the same thing, each time reinforcing the correctness of thought and the spirituality that existed in each of the little darlings. By this time, I was thoroughly confused. What the heck were they seeing? Evidently, my book was special. The mirror did not lie. When it came to my turn, I yelled out, It's me! Was this the mark of a special destiny for me? That when the others saw Jesus, I saw myself. I looked up and saw my mother put her hands on her face and bow her head down in shame, while the other mothers looked on with pity. My euphoria evaporated when I saw all the other books also had the same mirror. My next thought was, how could they all have been so wrong? As I got older, my performance at church did not improve. I was a typical, well, maybe atypical, active boy, and if I got bored during the sermons, I would crawl under the pews. For some reason, this did not go down well. But the good news is I really liked our Reverend. He was the nicest man in the world. Our two families would go on vacation at the beach together. Everyone at church knew our families were friends. When I was about 10 or 11, I was sitting in the pew with my mother, waiting for our Reverend to walk down the aisle to start the service. I told my mom, Look, Mom, God's coming. Everyone laughed. I didn't know why. After all, he was a great guy and a wonderful person. Wasn't he God? For all the reasons I've still not figured out, my mother gave up and let me stay home with my dad on Sundays. I will always cherish those wonderful Sundays, playing for hours with my army men. As one can detect, my spiritual IQ was low to non-existent. I believe in facts and what I could see. As I progressed in life, I did not change my outlook. I considered people who believe in spirits and ghosts to be mistaken, and those who were very religious to be people who needed a crutch to survive daily life. So before my wife had her near-death experience, she had a different type of revelation. When she was a young girl of 14, she went to her godmother's house to bring her some food, as she did on many occasions. This day was different. She told Anna to come close to her. Anna's godmother held her hands and began to tell of certain events that will happen in the future. She told her that she would marry a foreigner, meaning in this case a man who was not a Brazilian. After hearing about so many wondrous things that would happen to her, my future wife was very excited. After all, to a 14-year-old girl, everything must happen rather quickly. All through her 20s, my wife waited for these foretold events to occur. She had worked for other people, even while she finished high school. She led a modest life in her small apartment. Gradually, the rhythm of daily life and the numerous encounters that gave rise to great hopes, which had always led to failed expectations, allowed her to forget, or at least suppressed, her memories of her godmother's talk and her time in a coma. I met Anna in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, when she was 31. I had already been married once and had no wish to marry again. Little did I know that I was not in control of events. Somehow, after meeting, we were married within 8 months. So when we got married, Anna spoke to me about her past experiences with her godmother and in the hospital. When I heard that Anna was told that she was destined to marry a foreigner, I just smiled and said to myself, yes, right, I was condescending. I didn't believe a word, thinking these were just the product of superstition and wishful thinking. But then little hints would occur. There was more to this than pure fantasy. We went looking for a house, trudging through home after trying to walk in a swamp. I was getting very bored with all this when we came to one house. My wife said, this is it. I answered, "This is what?" She told me that this is the house we were going to live. We called the real estate agent and made an offer. We were told that there were 2 offers on the table. I explained to my wife that we had a small to 0 chance of getting that house. But, she said, the house had 3 trees in front, just like my godmother told me. Ah, I replied very smugly, the house actually has 4 trees in front. Nevertheless, we're going to buy that house, she retorted, with an air of superiority. Somehow the other 2 offers fell through, and we purchased the house. As we moved in, I again pointed out the 4 trees in front. She merely looked at me with that loving but slightly exasperated expression. A month later, a windstorm blew through and knocked over one of the trees. I thought about it for a minute, but put it down to coincidence. Other events would occur, and afterwards she would say, now I remember. My godmother told me this would happen. Or I remember this from my dream at the hospital. Again, I would always smile and say, of course, dear. So then the improbable happened. Years passed and life went on. I was working for a bank when the Great Recession started to form in 2006. That was the time of all the mortgage disaster. The stock price of this bank started to drop, but I knew the bank was financially healthy. After all, the entire senior management told us so. I had a conversation with Ann about the subprime business and how if many people couldn't pay their mortgages, the other banks could be in trouble, but that we would be okay. And then she said, and this is very early in 2006, now I remember, she said. My godmother said you were going to work for a bank that would go bankrupt. But don't worry, because you will still work for that bank. You'll just change its name. What the heck was that? Impossible, I said to myself. I dismissed what she said completely. A month later, a well-connected firm took apart ownership in our financial institution. I thought that if they invested with us, with their association with the power brokers in D.C. and Wall Street, we must be in good position. I was so smart, I invested in more stock in our bank, hoping to make a large profit when we pulled through these troubles. 4 months later, the FDIC closed us, and I lost everything. The stock price went to 0. The bank closed us. We were completely bankrupt. Or so I thought. I came home, explained to my wife what happened. She said, don't worry, they'll hire you back. But they didn't. I was given some extra months to extra work to help transfer knowledge, and at the end of that period, I would be looking for a job in the worst financial crisis to hit the United States since the Great Depression. At the end of my extension, I started looking for a job. Again, my wife said, don't waste your time looking for other jobs. They will hire you. What did she know? Didn't she realize the extent of the catastrophe? I and millions others were looking for those few positions. I feverishly sought out work after numerous fruitless interviews. In the end, after being out of work for only 4 months, I was hired back by the same bank, but with a different name. So this started my quest for an answer. I, who had always believed in free will, that I was a person who made my own destiny via my hard work, good choices, and bad choices, for whatever happened to me was caused by my actions or coincidence. Coincidence being the random events that may affect your life while your life intersects with other people's lives, plus the randomness of natural occurrences, which may shape your life at times. The improbability of an old woman who lived in practically a hut with a thatched roof, I'm not kidding, a thatched roof, earthen floors, and little baby chicks running around the floor inside the house. Because I actually visited her once when I first married Anna. I went to her hometown. I could tell my wife 30 years ago that the bank I worked for would go broke, change its name, and rehire me was for all accounts an impossibility. All I was left with was the facts. And this wasn't the only thing, but this was the main event. If someone could perfectly forecast the future, then that future must be known by some power. My well-packaged belief system had been utterly destroyed, stepped on by events. I searched destiny, predestination, fate, and everything related on the internet. I read many theories. One which was interesting is that all events are foretold. The universe is like a grand DVD, in that you're able to select any moment and replay the scenes. Well, that may be true, but the theory couldn't explain why or who caused this. From there, I researched the idea of the universe being a giant hologram. Again, yes, it could be true, but why? Then one day, I was watching the Brazilian channel Global on cable TV. There's a program called Fantastical, similar to 60 Minutes. It was about Chico Xavier and his aptitude to communicate with the spirits. His ability to write down what the spirits told him, the smallest details of deceased people's lives, all for the benefit of surviving family members. The facts he wrote down were investigated and found to be true, completely accurate. This was startling. I decided to read about him. At an early age, he communicated with his departed mother. In later life, a spirit, Emmanuel, told him that he would be used by the spirit world to communicate with humanity. And he was also told to never stray off the path of Spiritism. So, and they'll use the doctrine of Allan Kardec as his guide. And so many people try to expose Chico as a fraud. They always think, the religious people want to just make money. But Chico said, I will never fall down because I will never stood up. Meaning that of all the people he helped, plus the over 400 books he psychographed, written with his hand, but the spirits dictating everything, he gave all to charity, and he lived a very simple life. I decided to read about Spiritism and Allan Kardec. I found out that Spiritism was presented to us by the spirit world, so we here on earth may perfect ourselves to prepare the earth to reach a higher plane of existence. Using Spiritism, we are expected to improve our collective behavior. Spiritism was brought to us via the work of Allan Kardec. And basically, in 1857, in response to the growing interest in spirits and mediums, he organized a series of questions designed to discern the exact nature and wishes of the spirits. He did not accept information from just one medium, but verified the response to a question from multiple mediums throughout Europe. He wrote a total of 5 books documenting the answers to his questions. So I read all the books. And basically, Spiritism to me started making sense. And one thing really stood out is that life on earth is like a school. You're assigned events in your life, and how you react will determine your spiritual progress. And that just struck me like a lightning bolt. The series of trials in our lives are prescribed. We must march on through our assigned tribulations, and that our life is predestined, and that we do have free will in the choices and our attitudes during those trials. And oh, how I wish I'd learned these truths earlier. I wouldn't have been so full of self-pity. I wish I could have met my adversaries like true gentlemen in my adversities in a more honorable position. But of course I failed. I whined and I complained. While many other precepts of Spiritism coincide with other religions, the principle of karma and multiple lives, but nothing else explained the entire process of injustice and seemingly incomprehensible tragedies that befell innocent people. The maimed, those born with disabilities, gentle, wonderful lives cut short, all apparently without true cause. But there is a true cause. And in many cases, the people so afflicted ask for the right to pay their redemption, seeking the path to learn to become better spirits. So that is my story. That is where I am right now. That is why I became a Spiritist. And so now I would be happy to take, if anyone wishes to call in, we take any questions from anyone in the audience. I see a guest is logged in. I don't hear anybody on the phone yet. Okay, well, I will just keep talking then. Wait, let me take one quick break, and I will start up. I'm back. So I did have a question. Is so what order? What order did I read the books? And so let me answer that question. So I started, as I said before, I started with Alan Kardec. I heard about him from Chico. So I read the Spirit's book first. I read Genesis, Heaven and Hell, Gospel According to Spiritism, and then lastly the Medium's book. And so that's where that's how I started. And then, after watching the Fantastical program about Chico Xavier, I started reading his books, and I started out with really a fantastic series with No Solar, and I read all of the No Solar, all the Andre Luis books that's been translated in English. I know there's one at least that has not been translated yet, and I'm certainly waiting for that to be translated. I would love for more books, Spiritism books, be translated from Portuguese to English. It's I kind of wait every year to see what new has been out there. So there's a lot of information, and it's a wonderful series. I've also read all the books I can that was by Emmanuel, dictated by Emmanuel, his historical books, 2,000 years ago, 50 years after the Renunciation, those books. And then I've also found a wonderful author, Yvonne Pierre, who has only a couple of her books translated in English, which is Memoirs of a Suicide, which I would recommend to anybody because they're just wonderful, wonderful books. Let me see. Is there any other questions out there? Oh, okay. Here's another one. So, talking about, does my wife also, is my wife also working on, is she a Spiritist? And of course, the answer is yes. We both I started reading it. She was actually, many years when she was younger, before we met, someone gave her a book. I believe she said it was The Gospel According to Spiritism or the Book of Mediums. But she read it, didn't really process it, whatever. And then I started reading the Spirit's book. I talked to her about it, and then she started reading it. Started reading it in English. A little bit hard for her to read it in English. Then she started reading it in Portuguese. We bought the Portuguese version, so she is completely reading things, reading all of the books that she can. She has a lot more collection to go. When we go to Rio, we buy all the books we can within the Spiritist bookshop down in downtown Rio. So, in fact, she's got a much wider selection to pick from. Okay. Are there any other questions that are coming in from people? Oh, okay. Well, so how has this affected me personally? So, and this will I'll get into in subsequent shows, but I think so. Spiritism gives you the answers, right? It gives you kind of what you've been looking for in many, as you go through high school and college and young, you see the world around you. You get stressed out on you're not moving fast enough. You have trouble with people. There's all sorts of things that just aren't right in what you like or not like, and the injustices of the world. And you live in the sea of conflicting emotions and stress. I mean, like even Socrates, who was a precursor to Jesus, said that it's hard to be at all intellectual or thinking in this world when you are bombarded with 1,000 emotions every minute. And that is what really living in this world is like. But Spiritism gives you the ability to start filtering out those bad emotions because you understand why why the world is partially chaotic, or maybe fully chaotic, depending on your point of view, and why are there bad things and evil in this world? Because we're on a planet of atonement. They're supposed to be. We're on a planet of atonement because we are here to learn. We are here to learn how to survive in a sea of emotions hitting us, and how to remain calm and loving through all of it. Now, is that a big job? Have I gotten there? No, absolutely not. It's a tremendous and a difficult task. And as you try to do anything and you try to become a better person, the first thing you do is you learn to keep your mouth shut. And that's relatively easy. But then the more you read about Spiritism, it's really, it's your thoughts, right? Because it's from the spirits on earth and around the earth. They all tell us is that everything starts from thought, and that our thoughts are monitored and tracked, and the spirit world understands and knows our thoughts at any given time. In fact, you read about this in Spiritist literature, but you also see that in near-death experiences, where a person will have a near-death experience, and they will have an end-of-life review, which usually a group or maybe one spirit will go through that and show them everything, every little detail that happened during an experience that they want to review, and what the other person thought also. So that's really the quest to become a spiritist. First to change your own inner self, your own inner being, and then secondly is to then find out more knowledge and find out how you can more actively participate and help others. Okay, let me see. I got anyone else who would like to either call in and ask questions or on the chat screen. Oh, okay. I see one. Okay, so here's another question coming in. Let me phrase this correctly here. So how should I start? How should I start learning? So I think it's relatively simple. I think one is that you should read the Spirit's book. Now, I've talked to other people who come to our meetings here in Bainbridge Island. We have a meeting every Friday on Bainbridge Island. We start at 8 o'clock with our talk. But we welcome people to come at 7 p.m. Early so we can talk about Spiritism as their leisure. But really it's just learning the precepts and tenets of Spiritism. And the Spirit's books is a great place to start. Now, I do understand, I've talked to many people, not many, but quite a few people about, it's hard slogging getting to the Spirit book. Some people love it. I mean, I loved it, but it all depends on how you like to process information, what kind of person you are, and how you like to learn. And so that's one thing. There are simpler books out there. I have written a book, Spiritism 101. You can look at just very short. Like I have it actually on my Facebook site. You can download it in PDF for free. It's 99 cents on Kindle. But it at least gives you kind of the philosophy behind Spiritism. And then from there, you can find other books. Certainly start with No Solar. In fact, in No Solar, you can rent. There's a movie called by the same. Sometimes you can also find it they named it Celestial City, but you can actually find it on YouTube under NOSSOLAR, N-O-S-S-O-L-A-R, No Solar, 2 words. And you can rent that movie for $3.99. So it's a wonderful movie. It's based on the first book by Andre Luis, a spirit who. What happened is he was a doctor. I believe around the turn of the century, of the 20th century, in the Rio de Janeiro area, and he had died. And then when he woke up after his death, he was in this horrible area, which is called the lower zone or the umbral in Portuguese. And the lower zone is a place where one goes when one is, you're not in heaven, you're dead, right? You're now back in your spiritual body, but you are a spirit, you're an immortal spirit. And this is the great secret of Spiritism, or the mundane secret of Spiritism that I would like to say, is that you are who you are in physical body or in spirit. If you're a nice person, you're going to be a nice person. If you're kind of a jerk, you're going to still be a jerk, right? If you're a thief, you're still going to have that inclination to steal, right? So that is kind of what happens. So we are who we are. So he woke up in this terrible area, and people were calling him suicide. He goes, I didn't commit suicide. I died a natural death. So he stayed there for I forgot how many years, for a few years. And finally, he just kept asking for God. He finally broke down and asked for God to help him. And then he was rescued by spiritual workers from the spiritual city of El Solar, which is on the first level of heaven. Now, when people say there's heaven, and then if you remember in the Bible, it says, Jesus said, my mansion has many rooms. And actually, there are many levels of heaven. How many, we don't know. And so we talk about the first level of heaven, and there's second level and third level. But that is like some spirits say, this is just names of these spheres, just to help us humans on Earth understand, so we have an idea of the different stages of heaven. And when you are relatively a good person, an honest person, certainly not a Mother Teresa or whatever like that, just a good, honest person, you will usually be, in the first level of heaven. This is where Andre Luis went. So when he went there, he found out that the reason they called him a suicide is because he was an unconscious suicide, which I had not heard that term before. And what that meant is the spirit world means that when we deliberately destroy our bodies, either through too much drink, drugs, or whatever, we are actually shortening our existence on Earth. We have a planned time we're on Earth in order to learn the lessons we need to learn, and we're not allowed to shorten it. So that's what he found out. So anyways, I don't want to tell the rest of the story, but it's a very revealing look on heaven. And then read the book too. Actually, I think the movie is wonderful, but the book has just a pack full of information about that first level of heaven, what it's like, and what a nice place it is, and what a place that we can all look forward to. And just one thing I want to make sure everybody knows is that whatever we do here on Earth to help ourselves spiritually and help others, I've read this in many areas and under Lucia's books and other books, is that we will be rewarded 100-fold for our efforts to become a better person and a more spiritual person and trying to help others here on Earth. Okay, let's see. Is there any other? Okay, there's another question. Let me look at this for a second. So what do you do to help you become a better spiritist? So this is what my wife and I do. So first, we have a family meeting every Thursday night. So this is my wife and I and the kids, and we just meet for a half hour. We take a book and we'll read a couple chapters, and we'll read a paragraph. We'll talk about the paragraph. We'll read maybe some questions from the Spiritist book. We'll read a passage from the Gospel. There's these great group of books like Our Daily Bread, Jesus in the Home. You can find that on the Spiritist the United States Spiritist book site. I have a link on that from my blog. It's on the right navigation pane, and you can just read. There's just little self-contained chapters, just kind of giving a lesson for each, like 1 or 2 page chapter, which is good for for the younger children to read and work through and listen to. So we do that, and it's the other part is it's important to have it on the same time and the same night, because once you establish a routine, spirits will come down and actually help and facilitate the meetings. Not that I can tell, but they will be there. They'll help inspire people. We will put like bottles of water in the middle of the table, and the water will be magnetized. So some people want to ask, what do you mean water being magnetized? So during Spiritist meetings, you go to a meeting, you go to a talk, and this is what they'll do in Rio in the United States. Brazil, United States. And they'll talk for a half hour, an hour, and then after the meeting you'll get passes. And I'll explain passes in a moment. And then after that you'll drink a little cup of water. So what happens during these spiritual meetings, and this also we do on our Fridays for other people coming, not just our family, is we'll give passes, people will hold water, and then the spirits will magnetize the water. And then as you drink the water, it will help clean you out, it will help balance you. And it will make you a more balanced, harmonious person, right? Because that's really what we need to do is to have harmony within our bodies. And there's 4 centers. Spiritism tells us 4 centers that are really the same as chakras that you'll see explained. And then passes. So what are passes? So a pass is so visualize a person sitting in a chair. That's you, the one who's receiving the pass. Visualize a person sitting in the chair, and then there's another person in front of you, like putting their arms and never touching you, but like standing up in front of you, and just kind of passing from their hands, starting from their head, like down to your legs, and then behind that person is a spirit, and then so in Spiritism, everything is created out of universal fluids. And then each of us have vital fluids, which are a kind of a customized combination of fluids that are just for us. And so the Spirit uses that person who's giving the pass to transform universal fluid into the vital fluid that will be matched directly to your body, kind of like how things, kind of like how blood type is for you. So that pass will help make you feel better. Okay, well, I have a caller on the phone. Let me have the caller come in. Hello, this is Brian.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing good. Who's this?
This is Hadassah. I was actually on the computer, but as a guest. I'm just tuning in.
Okay.
Been having my own spiritual experiences and challenges. Just trying to understand them as I go.
And what have been those experiences?
Well, I see a lot of things out my peripheral vision. There's times where things will cross my mind and then I'll see it happen. Mm-hmm. Or my dreams used to always bring me insight. And, then about 5 years ago it stopped coming as fluid, where I would wake up and not remember it. But I know that I'm connected. I don't know if I got this. It's a gift that I don't understand at this moment. But I think I inherited it from my mother, who inherited it from her mother. And I'm just trying to be more cautious of what I say, because usually a lot of times when my mother would say things that happened, it did.
Right. Yes.
And she had a keen sense of discernment.
Right.
And I usually would get signs before someone passes, but I would know it meant something, but then I would just become unconscious about it. And then when it happened, it'll bring me back to that moment when I got that sign. So
right.
I'm just trying to understand a lot that has been going on around me. I know that I'm definitely empathic. That's why I kind of like try to stay away from crowds and people because it's overwhelming.
Well, and so there's many things what you talked about there, and they're all wonderful things. So you have a mediumistic abilities. I have none, but I know mediums, and what I've read is that to be an effective medium, you need to start understanding, right, the whole process of the spirit world, and that the level you are spiritually determines the level of spirits that come to you and helps you. And that's why, my advice to you is to read start reading about Spiritism. Understand that the spirit world, you have spirits. Spirits are all around you, constantly, and you hear, you can feel their presence. I'm probably sure you can probably feel when the spirit's close to you. Probably no doubt, right? And the more you sit down and you pray and you ask for help and you ask for guidance, right? And you try to keep your thoughts well, and not think mean thoughts, think good thoughts about people as much as possible. You will be given more and more help. But my wife is going through the same thing. Spirits sent her a message saying they want to bring her to the next level, and so they've asked her to sit and meditate twice a day, like 30 minutes twice a day, and so they will come and they will help her increase her gift, right? And so I would say to you is start exploring what you can about Spiritism. Read any book by Allan Kardec. Look at my blog. I don't know if you have the address of my blog, but just read through things there. See what interests you. I have many different versions, and there's also a link on my blog, and I can't remember exactly where, on different mediumistic books you can get for free on PDFs or whatever, because you definitely have a gift, and you know that spirits. So when you see the future, sometimes you'll see things that are going to happen in the future, right? So the reason for that is because in the spirit world, spirits see the past, the present, and the future. And depending on the level of the spirit, they can see further in the future. So very high spirits can see very far in the future. And then the spirits that kind of more on our level, whatever, they can see just a little bit in the future. So you're picking up those glimpses from their thought of the future. So what you're experiencing is absolutely real, and there's a lot of information on it.
Okay.
So
you said it's on your blog?
Yep, it's on my blog. You can find it there. The spirits, and then another thing I want to tell you, and because I want to make sure because everything you told me has. I don't want you to question yourself. Not that you are, but other people on the program may think, well, am I crazy listening, hearing these things? Everything you said is, I've seen this in many other places, right? So when you feel those feelings from other people, because people radiate thoughts in their minds, and I'm sure you probably already know this, but let me just validate what you already know. Is we were told, there's a great book in the domains of mediumship, again by Chico Xavier, which is I would recommend you read. It's also called In the Realms of Mediumship. So we are told, even in the introduction, Emmanuel, who wrote the introduction, it was a book by Andrew Louise, tells us that our brains, we radiate a unique signature. So we are kind of like, one of those RFID cards, right, that you can just read, it knows what the number is. Our thoughts, everything is tagged. Everything out there, they know exactly what we're thinking, right? So you have the ability, God bless you, you have the ability, you are picking up other thoughts. Now, if you were just a spirit, you'd pick them up all the time and you would know how to filter them. But you are in this physical cocoon right now. So your abilities are muffled, right? But you're still picking things up. And so you have much more ability than other people, but you're picking up their thoughts and you're picking up their emotions, right? Because their thought and emotions are all tagged. So what you're feeling, you are definitely, You're not just picking up visual clues. Your subconscious is picking up actual waves of radiation from other people's thoughts. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does, and sometimes it's like a heavy baggage.
Absolutely.
It's like, I've been told to ground. I've been told to, surround myself with white light. Calling Archangel Michael and Gabrielle and various ones at different times, and I've been trying to walk through the path. On a day-to-day basis, I work in a place there's a lot of different energies going on around here, and sometimes it becomes overwhelming.
Oh, I bet.
Yes, and it's true because sometimes I can see when someone is about to do something very calculating and undermining. I could like to see it in advance how it's going to play out, and I'll wrestle with it because I don't want to get to the end of it. Like, 'cause to me, sometimes when I see certain things, I really wish that I had the ability to just change it midstream.
Right. Yeah.
But when it actually unfolds, it's like confirmation. The only thing with being around so many different energies at different times, and ultimately sometimes becoming overwhelmed by it, is that the things that I need to be focused on, I'm unable to do it because of all of the distractions.
Right. And so this is where you need to read about mediumship and understand, and then start learning how to filter these things, right? And it's very difficult, but because it's very difficult. But the more you read about the spirit world and the processes and about mediumship itself, and then how to discern good spirits versus inferior spirits, the more you'll be able to control this in your mind. So I think it'd really be good for you to learn. The more you learn, and the more you have a quest for information, believe me, the spirit world will pick up those thoughts, and they will start helping you more and more. That you start taking the first step towards really improving yourself, and then you're going to basically get to a point where you'll be more disciplined and able to handle the gift that you're given. Now, at times, I'm sure you're thinking it's more of a curse than a gift, but that gift, eventually, I'm hoping, will be used that you can help other people, and the more you help other people, the more beautiful it is, right? Because that's why we're on Earth, is to help is to love and show kindness to others. Right now, it's kind of hard for you because you're not sure how to approach it or how to stop these things that you feel.
Well, I knew that I was being attacked. I knew that I was being attacked spiritually, and as it began to unfold, what it was doing was showing me how to protect myself. But then I began to see where my children were being attacked. And, I would try to help them understand it. But, of course, they didn't want to understand it. They had the same response I had when I was their age and my mother was trying to help me.
Right.
And, it's just now beginning to settle down a bit where I could honestly say that I'm seeing a change somewhat.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The distractions are constant.
Yes.
Constant. So the times when I have to meditate, I literally have to run away, even in my house, just to go someplace and sit down and meditate, to be able to understand what is being said, what is being done, how to continue to protect myself, how to continue to protect them.
Well, and let me give you
an idea. I'm not surrounded by anyone that believes any of this. I
know, and that's hard, isn't it?
It's very hard because they think when I tell them what's going on, they think that I'm just being super sensitive, or that's crazy, or you believe that stuff, this and that. They don't understand what has actually occurred.
Right. So I would recommend that you do is you take a place you can have either in your house or some other place, but you can go and maybe meditate. Maybe your room. I'm not quite sure how it's laid out, but the same time every day, because then if you can establish a pattern where you meditate in the same place at the same time, what will happen is just like when I was talking about the family gathering and the spirit meeting, spirits will come and they'll actually protect you, and they'll actually surround you with a protection against inferior spirits and give you the space to meditate correctly and to be helped. Now, this may not happen the first 1 or 2 or 3 times, but they will learn that you're there, you're meditating, and you meditate and you say, please Jesus, please God, please help me, please help me improve myself and meditate and teach me what I'm supposed to be taught. And they'll actually create a barrier against inferior spirits so you can meditate in peace. You just have to make it the same time, the same place on a regular basis. It could be once a week, twice a week, whatever. And that will help you. If you bring your family in, that would be better. But I can see that.
They're totally against it. They are totally against it. They're totally against any of it. I'm telling you, they would know that I'm on the radio with you now. And that's when everyone wants to run up to me. I literally just ran away from 2 people, and they know that I'm on the radio.
Yeah, I know, and that's our culture, right? I mean, that's our culture right now. Our culture is everything you and I are saying is Looney Tunes, right? Doesn't make sense. But there's so much out there. I mean, we mistakenly believe we know everything. We believe, if the scientists can't explain it, it doesn't exist. But we know that. Look at all the near-death experiences when things happen to people. Things actually are told the future and it comes true. I mean, how did my wife know that I was going to work for a bank, was going to go broke and hire me 30 years before it happened? I mean, that's why I believe in it now. And I've seen so many other things. We've been told so many other things and talked to so many other people. But I totally understand, because I used to believe the exact same way as your family believed. I would have thought you are just out there, that you have a mental problem. And it's a cross you're going to have to bear right now. And you're just going to have to learn to be patient with them, because they are, you're probably in that family to help others, right? Because nothing happens by chance, or very little by chance. Mm-hmm. You were picked to have that family. I mean, before you're incarnated, I should say, you probably planned out your life, right? Because you are usually part of planning out your life and how it should be done, and therefore, you may be there to help them. So, I mean, you just have to be patient with them and say, okay, you don't believe, I understand, but at some point in time, you may or may not. These are hard trials for you. You're going through a hard trial.
Yes, it is difficult, very, very difficult, and it's been ongoing. But I know that eventually it'll make sense to everyone else, because I know if I'm not trying to help them, and then they become self-reliant, and then they have to learn for their own, then eventually, they'll probably come to a better understanding at this point.
Exactly. And if you can, as in the meantime, as they're maturing and they're asking questions, if you start educating yourself about the spirits and the spirits around us, when they come to you for questions, because you can't impose things, right? You can't force people to believe what you believe. But when they come to you for questions, I don't want to force
them. I just want them to leave me alone and let me do what I have to do.
Exactly.
I don't want to force them. I really don't. Put it this way: if you don't believe what I'm telling you I'm experiencing, or what I'm going through, or what I'm learning, then guess what? Okay, you don't have to believe it anymore. I'm tired of trying to teach someone who doesn't want to learn what they need to learn.
Right.
To be honest with you, they have a saying that the teacher appears when the students are present, and it's true. If I'm going to help somebody or teach them something, when they're ready, then it's fine. When they're not ready, I'm just beating my head up against a brick wall. And that's the worst thing to do when you're going through your own stuff and you're trying to work it out. It's like it kills you. It kills you from the inside out, because, at the end of the day, I still know what I'm dealing with. I can't convince you, and you don't have to believe it. You don't have to see what you can't see. Eventually you will.
Yes. And, And you're absolutely right. And that's why the more you can learn about these things, it helps you deal with it. And if they ever come to ask you questions, you can give them very structured answers. Exactly. You have a wonderful attitude, and you're handling it wonderful. I've seen other people who are mediums just have a horrible time, and in fact, many people want to shut that off completely because it's just too scary and too unnerving for them. And I think that's the wrong attitude, because you were put on this earth with this gift for a reason. And the more you can find out what your trials on earth are about and the reasons why you need to go through things that you have to, the better off you will be in this life, and the better prepared you will be when you go back to the spirit world and ready for your next life on earth.
Okay.
So,
I'm proud of it.
It's a lot. Absolutely. It's a lot to learn, a lot to read, and it's a lot of mental discipline, which you sound like you have already. You have a wonderful attitude and a wonderful outlook. So, you're fighting a good battle, and the spirits are helping you. I know it's tough.
It's been really tough.
I know.
No. Well, I'm so thankful for BTR, because there's many people on BTR that are more knowledgeable, so I've been able to kind of piece things together.
Good. That's wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
And
it was wonderful talking to you.
I do appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. God bless.
You too. Namaste.
Thank you. Okay, I have time for one more caller. Hello, you're on the air.
Hello?
Yes. Hi, this is Brian.
Can you hear me?
We have 90. Yes, I can. We have 90 seconds left on airtime.
Great. I just had a quick question on. You talked about how we have a plan and we choose our plans.
Yes.
How in this lifetime can we change that plan? Like I must have chosen to financially struggle, and I want to change that plan. And I just want to tell you, I could relate a lot to the previous caller.
Right.
Yeah, a lot. Not everything, but a lot of things as far as being an empath. And I'm also really, I know I feel better, do better when I do take that time to connect and all that. It's hard to have the discipline when you have so many other stressors and 4 kids and, so I kind of want to change the plan, but I know I can't do that until I'm more focused. Do you have any insight on that?
Well, you've answered a lot of your own questions, which is wonderful.
I know.
Yeah, which shows you're ahead of me, as most people are. You need to be focused and work and pray and know and just accept. First of all, we're getting off here, but accept what's been given to you with a good attitude, and then try to help as much people as you can, and then things will help you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I think we just ended off the air. Thank you so much for calling in. We'll be here again next week.
Oh, good. Okay. This is the first time I've heard. This is great. Thank you.
Yeah. So, come next week. We're here at the same time every Sunday. I don't know what part of the country you're in, but it's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in Eastern. I'm in South Carolina. So, okay.
Okay. Well, God bless you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So this is the end of our episode. I think we went over a little bit. Let me see if I can get the end of it, the end audio to go, and then this is we will see you again next Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Eastern, and all the time zones in between. Thank you. I would like to thank everyone for listening to our program on Kardec Radio. And to point you in the direction to find more information about the spirit world around us. You can visit my blog at www.nwspiritism.com. Again, that is www.nw, as in Northwest, spiritism.com. And if you are ever in the Northwest, I certainly would welcome to have you come to our meeting on Bainbridge Island near Seattle in the state of Washington. Many blessings to all of you, and please continue to explore Spiritism and the spirit world around us.